Today, you are going to learn how to use Postmark, an email delivery service that people actually like, within Next.js to send emails programmatically within your Next.js applications. So here is our final product here to where we're going to be able to send an email, or you can put in a subject and a body, and when you click send email, it's going to use Postmark to send that email to whomever you want. And then we are also going to use an email template here. So if I go to /template, we're going to send an email template to where we put in a name and an age, click send email, and then it's going to use Postmark email templates to send a templated email that we actually create within Postmark. And to do this, we're going to use Next.js as well as route handlers and show you some really good use cases of using route handlers in Next.js. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is create a new Next.js application by running npx create next app at latest. And then we're going to follow these prompts here. So I'm going to call this Postmark email. Not going to use TypeScript, no ESLint. I am going to use Tailwind. I am going to add some styles using ChatGPT throughout this application. That's not really the focus of this. The focus of this is to kind of show you how you can use Postmark to send emails programmatically in your applications. But I would still suggest using Tailwind here because that's what I'm going to be using for my styles here. And then I am not going to use an SRC directory. We are going to use the app router. We are not going to customize the default import alias. So now that this is all created, I'm going to go File, Open, and then open this project within VS Code. So I've opened this up here and we have all of our generic kind of template Next.js stuff here. We have our app, and then we also have our like Tailwind config, package.json, all this stuff. So this is what we will see as our home page here. So if I open my terminal again and I run npm run dev, it should start up my local server here. So it started at localhost 3000. So if I come back here, and this is what we will be using, but if I come back to localhost 3000, I refresh this page here, I should see the basic Next.js application, which I do indeed see. So now we want to start integrating Postmark here. But before we do that, let's actually set up the user interface of our application, and then we will connect it to Postmark and do our email sending. So let's go back to VS Code, and I'm going to create two different routes. We're going to create one route that is going to be just sending a basic email, and then another route is going to be sending an email using a Postmark template, which can be super useful because you can just fill in the Postmark template with some different dynamic variables, and you can kind of have your copy all in one place rather than storing your copy like actually in your code, which can definitely be nice because then a non-developer can go use that, and it also makes your code a little bit cleaner. So the first thing that we're going to do here is I'm going to create a new folder within my app directory here, and I'm going to call this, let's just call it basic email. And then within my basic email folder, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call this page.jsx. And then within this page.jsx file, this is where we are going to create a page that will allow the user to type in a subject line as well as a body line. And then when they click on send email, then it will make a request to our own backend. And then our backend will use the Postmark node integration to send an email using Postmark. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to first make this a client component because we are going to make an API request to our own backend because the user is going to be typing in the inputs and then they're going to click submit. So we need to handle that as a client component. So I'm going to do export default function, and I'm just going to call this basic email. And then here at the top, we're going to create two different pieces of state. We're going to have const subject, set subject is equal to use state. And then we are also going to have const body, set body is also equal to use state. And as you can see, I used an automatic import there to where we imported use state from React. So now that we have this in place, let's go ahead and just create our HTML here, or our JSX. And for this, like, this isn't super important. So like, if you want to just copy this from my GitHub project, which is linked in the description, you definitely can. But, it could be helpful for you. Like, if you're still, learning about JSX and stuff like that, try to write out the rest of this component here to where you return a header that says send an email, and then a couple of inputs that allow the user to type in the subject email, as well as type in the body email, as well as a button that allows the user to actually submit that email. But I'm going to do this here. So I'm going to first write out the HTML, and then I will add all the styles later. And I'm basically just going to copy and paste those styles from ChatGPT. So what we're going to do here is we're going to return, and we're just going to do a wrapper div, and then we're going to do another wrapper div, and within our second div, we're going to do another div, and most of this is just going to be for styling purposes. And here I'm going to do an H2, and I'm going to say send an email. And then we're going to go outside of our H2 div, and we're then going to add another div, and here we're going to add a label as well as an input. And this is going to allow the user to type in the subject. So here we are going to do a label, and then I'm just going to put in subject. And then here below, we're going to put an input, and this input is going to be type text. Our value is going to be our subject state, and then on change. And let's go ahead and move these to separate lines here. So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this and this. We're going to pass in a function that accepts the event. And then here we are going to set our subject, and that is going to be our event.target.value. So this is our subject input. And now we need to do the very same thing for our body input. So I'm going to copy this div here, and then below it, I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to put body, and then the value is now going to be our body value. And then here, instead of setting subject, we're going to set our body. So that will set up our subject email, or our subject input, our body input, as well as our header there. And then below it, we also need to add our button for sending an email. So here we are going to do another div, and then within this div is going to be a button component that is going to just say send email. And then we are going to make our on click. That is going to be a send email function that we are eventually going to create here. Actually, up at the top, let's go ahead and just, put something in place so this doesn't get an error. So I'm going to say async function send email, and then we're just going to return null for now, just so this doesn't error out when we put send email right here. Now with this in place, I can go ahead and add my styles. But before I do that, let me just come back to our browser here. And if we go to the route, I believe it's basic email, you see we have our send an email, subject, body, and our send email button. But I'm just going to ask ChatGPT to now add styles. I'm gonna copy this structure, paste it into ChatGPT. I'm going to say, hey, style this. And it's going to give me those styles. And then I'm just going to copy and paste those styles here within this div. If you want to just copy the HTML that I have in my project, that is perfectly reasonable to do. If you yourself want to go use ChatGPT to do this, that is also perfectly reasonable to do. But I think that, in modern development, leveraging ChatGPT to do stuff like this is so great, because I don't need to worry about spending, 20 or 30 minutes just styling this component. I can effectively just copy and paste this from ChatGPT. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I've pasted this in, and this structure looks a little bit different because ChatGPT formatted this different, but you can see that it put all the Tailwind classes in here. If you are using ChatGPT, make sure that you tell it that you are using Tailwind. All right. So now if I save this and I come back, we see a much better user interface here. Isn't that crazy how fast it made this? Like this honestly looks pretty dang good here. So now that we have this in place, let's go ahead and let's add our other route, and it's just going to be for a template email. And for a template email, let's go ahead and let's do this. So I'm going to come back. So we have our route for basic email here, and we created a page.jsx file within basic email, and that's why we see /basic email. But if I want to create /template, what we can do is, well, this might be a good exercise for you as well. Go ahead and create a new template page to where it's going to be /template, and then allow the user, we'll have two inputs again, and they will send their full name as well as their age. And then we'll set up a Postmark template, and we'll send an email based on their name as well as their age. All right, so give that a go. Try to set that up. It should be pretty easy because you can follow the same structure that we did here. But I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So new folder, I'm going to just call this template, and I'm going to create a page.jsx file within my template page. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to my basic email page, and I am going to go ahead and copy this and paste it into my template page. Now, I do need to adjust this ever so slightly. So instead of having subject and body, I'm going to just say name as well as set name. And then for the name of this component, instead of basic email, I'm going to call this template email. And then instead of body, I'm going to do age as well as set age. And then I'm going to keep this as send an email here, but I'm going to put this as name. And then instead of subject and set subject, I'm going to say name as well as set name. And then here is going to be age, and this is going to be set age. And this is also going to be age. And I think that's all we had to do there. So I see basic email, and then if I go to /template, I should see send an email, and maybe I'll adjust this, send an email template, just so it's a little bit different. So yeah, send an email template, name, age. I probably don't need like a big text field input though for this. So yeah, it uses a big text area. I can probably just do a normal input. And I'm going to change this to an input, and then I'll change it to be a type is equal to text. And then let's see how this looks. And let me move this over just a little bit. And this can be self-closing. I don't need to have that. And then I'm also going to copy the styles from my email above and paste that for my age input. So yeah, now we have name and age. We don't have such a big input there because we just really don't need it. So we have our two pages here, but now let's go ahead and set up Postmark so we can actually set up our route handlers and start sending an email via just basic email as well as sending a template email. So let's come back here. And what I'm going to do is in my root directory here, I'm going to add a new file, and I'm going to just call this postmark.js. And here is where we can configure Postmark. But before we do that, I'm going to open up a new terminal, and I'm going to go npm install postmark --save. So this will install effectively a Postmark SDK that is going to allow us to use Node.js to send our emails. And we will be using Node.js because this is technically running on the server here within Next.js. So now that we have that, I can say const postmark is equal to require, and then this is going to be Postmark. And then once I have this in place, I can do const server token is equal to, well, we still need to set this up. So I'm going to just do an empty string right now. And I'm going to say const client is equal to new postmark dot server client. And then I'm going to pass in my server token. And I can see now this should be postmark. And then this should also be postmark. I don't know what the heck I was typing in there. And you could also just like import postmark from postmark. But I'm okay with just leaving it as it is. I know that this will still work just fine. And once we've done this, then all we need to do is export our client. So then we can use our postmark client throughout our application. Now, we do need to set up our server token. So to do this, in the root directory here, I'm going to add a .env.local. And it's important that you add this at the root of your project and not within your app folder. All right, so put your env.local not in your app folder, but in the root. And I'm going to add next public underscore, and then this is going to be called, what was it called? Server token. And I'll call this postmark server token. And now we need to go get this token. So here's where we are going to go to postmark here. So for this, we're going to click on account. I'm probably already logged in, and I am already logged in, but you might have to create just like a free account here. Now, there is a little bit of a got you to this free account, which we'll cover here in a second, but we are going to go ahead and use this. So I'm going to click on my first server here, and then I'm going to click on API tokens. And then I'm going to look at server API tokens. I'm going to click to copy here. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to paste this as my postmark server token. And then back in our postmark.js file, I'm going to say my server token is actually my process.env dot, and it is going to be my next public postmark server token. So this should effectively connect us to Postmark. Now, what I want to do here is let's create a route handler for sending a basic email. So within my app directory here, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this API. And within my API folder, I'm going to create another new folder, and I'm going to just call this basic email. And then within basic email, I'm going to create a route.js file. And this is where we are going to make a request to. So we're going to, from our basic email page here, I'm going to make a request here in my send email function to my /API/basic email route. And this is going to be a post request because we want to create a new email. So in this route handler, I need to then accept that request, and that request is going to contain the subject and text body of our email. And then I need to use the Node.js Postmark integration to send an email using Postmark. So what we can do here for this route handler is I can do export async function post, because we're going to handle a post request, and then it's going to accept a request here. And I'm going to say const res is equal to await request.json. And then within my res, I'm going to say const subject and body is equal to res, because our request is going to include our subject and our body. And then for now, let's just console.log our subject as well as our body here. And then we will return a response.json with our res. So if we make a request to /API/basic email, we should include a subject and a body, and let's just console log those first. And then if that works, then we will go ahead and make a request to Postmark right here to send an actual email. So let's go back to basic email. And what we need to do now is we need to write this request to our own backend here. So I'm going to remove this return statement. We're going to do try, and I'm going to say await fetch, and then we're going to fetch our API / basic email. But we need to make this a post request with our two variables within the body, our subject and our body. So I'm going to add a second argument to this fetch request, which is going to set these options. So I'm going to do method, and this is going to be equal to post. And then we also need to set our headers, and this is going to be content type, and it's going to be equal to application / JSON. And then we're going to set our body. And then what this is going to be is JSON.stringify. We need to make sure to send this as JSON. And we're going to include our subject as well as our body in this request. And if this fails, what we want to do is we want to catch the error, and we'll just console.error this error. If everything works now, I should be able to go to basic email, which I am. I should be able to type in a subject as well as a body. And then when I make this request, it should just console log those within our route handler, assuming I'm doing everything correctly, which if you've seen my tutorials before, it's not always the case. So let's say test subject, test body. Now I'm going to click send. And I did click on it. We'll definitely clear these inputs out here in a sec, but let's just look within Node.js here and see we do indeed console log our test subject and our test body. So it looks like I actually set everything up on the first go correctly here. So now that I have this in place, what we can do is I want to use our Postmark client to now send an email. So I want to say client, and I'm importing that from @/postmark, our Postmark file here within our root directory. And I want to say .send email, and then we're going to call it and then pass in an object. And we're going to set our from property. We're also going to set our to property, and then we're going to set our subject, which is going to be our subject, and then we're going to set our text body, and that is going to be our body. Now for the from into, so the catch here with Postmark is that we are technically in free mode right now, or we're in test mode. And what this means is while your account is in test mode, you can only send and process 100 emails. Also, you can send emails to ryan@ryansolomon.io and other domains that I verified. So I can only send them basically to ryan@ryansolomon.io. That's the email I used to sign up for this. So that's kind of a catch in test mode. Your to and from email has to be the same email that you signed up for with Postmark. But this will work for our demonstration purposes here. But if you want to actually go ahead and use this in an application, you're probably going to want to pay for it. And I think they're generally pretty reasonable about their payments and stuff. Like we actually use this in our professional application, but that's just kind of a little gotcha. Or you can also request approval here and be able to kind of have more freedom with what you can do. But right now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to hard code the from and to email to be ryan@ryansolomon.io. And this is also going to be ryan@ryansolomon.io. All right, but we should still be able to customize the subject and the body. But now let's go back to basic email. And if this is successful here, we also want to make sure to set our subject here back to an empty string and set our body back to an empty string. So this should work. ? So I'm going to send test body or test subject, test body. I'm going to click send email. And we do indeed see that it clears my subject and clears my body. So now let's go check my email and to see if it worked. So I'm here within Gmail and I do indeed see test subject, test body in my Ryan@ryansolomon.io email. Let's test this again. Test subject 2, test body 2, send email, and then I'll check it again here. And I do indeed see test subject 2, test body 2. So we do indeed have it working for just sending a basic email, which honestly is pretty cool. We can now programmatically send emails within our Next.js application, which is a feature that a lot of products do have. So hopefully you found that helpful. But now that we've done that, let's go ahead and actually create a template and send those. So I was on message streams here, and you can see I've sent like 4 messages. It says 4 because I was testing this earlier, but I can go to templates here, and it says I don't have any templates yet. So I'm going to go ahead and add a template. And I'm just going to click code your own. And I'm going to say add a new layout and click continue here. And for this, let's go ahead and, so this is going to be name and age. So to use a variable within this, and we're going to set up both HTML as well as text here. The name of this template is going to be name and age. And then for the subject, I'm going to say hi, comma, and then I want to use a variable. And for this variable, I want it to be the name that the user types in. So to do this, I believe it is double curly brace and then name. I believe that's correct. And I can tell it is correct because this, for my subject here, the preview says hi and then name underscore value. That means I'm correctly using a variable here. So when we send this template, we need to send the variable of name. And then let's also set up the body. And I don't know, I'm just going to send like maybe and I'm going to click edit. I'm going to send maybe a paragraph tag that says hello, and then do the same thing. Name, you are age, years old. And that's all we will do for that. So that's our HTML. Let's also set up our text. I'm going to just copy this right here, paste it into the text. All right. And now let me preview this. So if I preview my HTML here, I see hi, name value, and I should see hello, name value, you are, age value, years old. So I'm using those variables correctly. And you use the variables by using double curly braces. And within text, I see hello, name value, you are, age value, years old. So now I'm going to go ahead and click save. So we save this template. And now that I've done this, we can set up our route handler to handle sending this template. And I'm going to, within API, I'm going to create another folder. And I'm going to just call this folder template. And then within template, I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to call this route.js. I'm going to go back to my basic email route.js. I'm going to copy this and paste it into template because we are going to make a post request and we are going to get our res, but instead of subject and body, we're going to get name as well as age. And then instead of send email, what we're going to do is we're going to say send email with template. So we'll do that here. And now to send an email with template, we're still going to set our same from and to here. That is going to remain the same. For our subject here, we don't need to set it because we are already setting that up in our subject here. And same thing with our body text. So all we need to do here for this send email with template is I need to set a template ID. So template ID, and then I need to set that to our template ID right here. So I'm going to copy that and paste that as my template ID. And then, like I said, we still have our from as well as our to. But now to send our variables, what we can do is I can do template model, and then this can point to an object. And this template model is going to have our name, and that is going to be name and then it's going to be our age, and that is going to be our age. So this is saying, okay, I want to send an email with template. I want to send this template ID with our same from and to emails. And then for the variables that I want to be visible in my template, I want it to be name and age. So in my template model, I'm setting name is name, age is age. So if I make a post request to API/template with a name and age, it should send this email template. Now, we still need to set up our template page here because I don't have my send email. But this is going to be very similar. So we're going to go back to our basic email page, and I'm going to copy my entire send email function. We're going to come back to my template page, and I am going to paste my entire send email function. But instead of API/basic email, it's going to be API/template. And then instead of subject and body, it is going to be name as well as age. And then instead of set subject and set body, it's going to be set name and set age back to an empty string. So that should theoretically do it. So now let's make this post request to /template and see if we successfully send our templated Postmark email. So let's come back here. Let's go to /template. And then I'm going to put my age, or this is the name field. I'm going to go ahead and put my name as Ryan. And I'm going to put my age. This is not my age. I know I might look old sometimes, but I'm not 42. But I'm going to click send email. So it looks like it cleared the email. So let's go check my email here and see if I do indeed have this email. And within my inbox, I do see, hi, Ryan. Hello, Ryan. You are 42 years old. Because that is what we set up in our template. Hi, name, hello, name, you are that years old. And if I do it again, I'll set my name to be, Josh. And then my age is going to be 62 years old. Send an email, and then I should be able to check my email here and see my templated email, which I do indeed see. Hi, Josh. Hello, Josh. You're 62 years old. So that, my friends, is how you can send emails, both templated emails as well as basic emails, programmatically using Postmark. So I hope you enjoyed this and learned a bunch, and I hope that you were able to see a really nice example of like how route handlers work and some good use cases for those as well. So thanks for tuning into this, and I will see you in that next one.